Ehud Olmert called it a war of annihilation. Yair Golan said Israel was killing babies as a hobby. Why are Israeli politicians speaking out after 18 months of war on Gaza? And what does the rest of the country think? Left-wing politician Yair Golan sparked a huge backlash when he accused Israel of killing babies as a hobby, harming civilians, and aiming to expel Gaza's population. Amid public outcry, Golan retracted his comments, saying he was not talking about the military but statements made by Israeli ministers. But soon afterward, former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert also accused Israel of committing war crimes through a policy of starvation and the unrestrained killing of civilians in Gaza. Their words came as a shock. As Prime Minister, Olmert had overseen the first war on Gaza in 2008, which killed 1,400 Palestinians and made 100,000 of them homeless. Golan, who leads a coalition of center-left parties, supported a complete aid blockade after the 7th of October 2023, saying that until hostages are released, as far as we care, you can starve to death. Their comments come as Israel's military said it plans to occupy 75% of Gaza in the next 2 months. Its priority is destroying Hamas, even though recent Israeli assessments estimated that the group still had 40,000 fighters, similar to pre-war levels. Israel's government hopes that by concentrating Palestinians into aid camps, it will collapse what's left of Hamas's governance in Gaza and potentially expel its population elsewhere. While Olmert and Golan were quick to condemn mass expulsion, recent polls suggest that these ideas are not necessarily unpopular in Israel. In March, an Israeli polling group asked a sample of 1,005 Israelis blunt questions about the Gaza war. They found that 82% said they supported expelling Palestinians from Gaza, and 56% supported expelling Palestinian citizens of Israel, almost double the proportion that said the same in 2003. When asked if Israel's military should kill all inhabitants after conquering a city in Gaza, nearly 47% agreed. This is partly because the questions were phrased in religious terms. For example, 65% said that they believed in a modern-day Amalek, the enemy that God commanded the Israelites to wipe out in the Bible. But not all Israelis feel the same way. While many may like the idea of occupying Gaza and expelling its residents, agreeing on how to do it is more complicated. 70% of Israelis think a deal to free remaining captives is more important than continuing the war, according to polls taken in March. And as Israel's military warns of a manpower shortage, only 5% of ultra-Orthodox Israelis drafted to fight have started the enlistment process. Under growing pressure to join, the ultra-Orthodox parties in Netanyahu's government have threatened to leave the coalition if it does not continue to exempt them from the military draft. But military reservists, tired of frequent and long deployments, are wary of continuing to fight for vague goals. Some 55% of Israelis believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu's main war aim is staying in power, according to a poll taken just last week. This criticism has grown as the government has clashed with military, security, and legal chiefs in its attempt to continue the war and consolidate authority. Netanyahu's unprecedented attempt to replace former Shin Bet chief Ronan Bar with hardliner David Zinni has sparked outrage. Zinni has called Gaza an eternal war and said he's opposed to hostage deals. Netanyahu reportedly did not hire him beforehand over fears he was too messianic. The Attorney General called the move unlawful and invalid, and Israel's military chief of staff said he had to be consulted first. But Netanyahu has ignored both of them. Despite appointing Israel's military chief himself, Netanyahu and Eyal Zamir, the chief of the general staff of Israel's army, have clashed repeatedly over the next phase of the Gaza war. Zamir has spoken out against ministers' calls to starve Gaza, warning that the battle against Hamas should not be an endless war and that they could lose the remaining captives in the process. As a result, Netanyahu has excluded Zamir from key decisions, reportedly talking to military officers and appointing a new Shin Bet chief without telling him. By ignoring Supreme Court rulings, sidelining military and security chiefs, and advancing a new long-term war plan, Israelis fear Netanyahu is prioritizing his own power over Israel's national security. And it is probably this, more than anything else, that is motivating major political figures to speak out at last.